AI integration in healthcare diagnostics. The call to change. Why healthcare needed AI. The fluorescent lights in St. Genesis Hospital buzzed faintly above Dr. Elena Rao's head as she squinted at the fourth CT scan that morning. Her shift had begun before sunrise, and now, past noon, her pager still hadn't gone silent. Room 307, elevated vitals. Room 410, unresponsive post-op. Each case another thread unraveling. Elena had been a doctor for only 5 years, yet she felt decades older. Diagnoses didn't just require knowledge, they demanded speed, clarity, and emotional resilience. Increasingly, it seemed she had only one of the three. Across from her, a young boy lay unconscious, his chart blank under the diagnosis field. The lab results were inconclusive. His mother stood at the edge of the room, clutching his backpack like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. Elena forced a reassuring nod, though her mind spun in circles. The boy's symptoms overlapped with 3 possible conditions, 1 benign, 2 fatal. There wasn't time for guesswork. Later that evening, in the quiet of the staff lounge, Elena scrolled through a medical forum on her tablet. A thread caught her eye: AI in radiology, better than the human eye? Skepticism surged through her. Machines couldn't understand nuance. They couldn't feel urgency. But beneath her doubt was a flicker of curiosity, maybe even hope. 3 weeks passed. The boy from room 205 had died. A post-mortem confirmed it was the rarest of the 3 diagnoses. Treatable, had it been caught in time. Elena sat in her car long after her shift ended, fingers clenched around the steering wheel. She couldn't stop hearing the mother's soft sobbing in the hallway, nor could she forget how her own hands trembled as she signed the death certificate. That night, she reopened the AI article. It detailed a pilot project in Sweden where algorithms analyzed medical scans with 94% accuracy, flagging patterns invisible to the naked eye. The tool didn't replace doctors, it guided them, highlighting anomalies, providing probability models. Doctors made the final call. But they weren't alone. Elena remembered her professor once saying, "The worst thing a doctor can do is think they know everything." Maybe it was time to admit she didn't. The next morning, she brought it up at the staff meeting. Half the room scoffed. "Machines aren't healers," one senior radiologist snapped. "They're calculators." But Elena's voice didn't waver. "Neither are we if we keep missing what's right in front of us." Silence followed. Then, a soft agreement from the head nurse. The seed was planted. Outside, sirens wailed as another ambulance pulled up. Inside, something had shifted, not just in the room, but within her. There was a choice to be made. As she walked back toward the ER, she whispered to herself, "There has to be a better way." And somewhere, in a lab across the ocean, a machine was waking up, ready to change everything. The machine awakens. How AI enters the scene. The lab was small, barely a converted office, but it hummed with quiet intensity. At its center stood an unassuming black server tower nicknamed Med AI. No blinking lights. No robotic voice. Just lines of code pulsing through circuits, waiting to prove itself. Dr. Elena Rao stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching the demo unfold. Beside her, a software engineer named Lucas navigated through interface screens with the calm of someone who had lived in code longer than conversation. "Here," Lucas said, tapping a key. "We fed the system 2,000 anonymized chest X-rays. It identifies potential anomalies with 92.7% accuracy. Better than any resident. No offense." Elena leaned in. On screen, a glowing outline traced a shadow on a patient's lung. Pulmonary fibrosis, MedAI's text output read. It was right. She felt equal parts impressed and unnerved. The accuracy was undeniable. But the diagnosis had no explanation, just an answer. No reasoning, no intuition, no bedside manner. "What happens when it's wrong?" she asked. Lucas hesitated. "It learns." At St. Genesis, MedAI was introduced as a quiet assistant, optional, experimental, and non-intrusive. Most staff ignored it. Some feared it. But Elena leaned into it, cautiously feeding it images and comparing its readings with her own. She never trusted it blindly, but something unexpected happened. It started making her better. One evening, while reviewing a routine abdominal scan, MedAI flagged a faint shadow behind the pancreas. Elena squinted. It looked like artifact noise. But something made her double-check. A biopsy revealed stage 1 pancreatic cancer, almost invisible to the eye. She didn't say much, but word spread. The whisper of "the machine that sees everything" moved through corridors like urban legend. Still, the resistance remained. "Too clinical," said one ER doctor. "It'll replace us," warned another. "It's just a crutch." Elena disagreed. MedAI wasn't a crutch, it was a mirror. It didn't remove responsibility, it demanded more of it. But then came the glitch. A misdiagnosis. A false positive. A young woman subjected to unnecessary tests and days of anxiety because the system had flagged a mass that wasn't there. Lawsuits were threatened. The administration panicked. Meetings were held. Budgets reconsidered. One more misstep, they said, and MedAI would be shelved. That night, Elena sat with Lucas in the empty lab, rewatching the scan. "It failed," she said. Lucas shook his head. "No, it's still learning. So are we." Outside the window, snow began to fall. Inside, Elena stared at the machine that could either revolutionize healthcare or be buried before it had the chance. "Tomorrow," she said finally, "we go again. But this time, it doesn't just assist, it earns its place." And so, in quiet corners of a world not yet ready, the machine kept learning. Watching. Waiting. Preparing for the next life it could save, or the next line it might cross. Into the unknown, the risks, limits, and ethical maze. It happened on a Thursday. The call came from a rural partner clinic in South Dakota, one of the pilot sites using MedAI Lite, a trimmed-down version adapted for smaller hospitals. A 52-year-old patient had been flagged for aggressive lymphoma. Treatment was initiated. But something felt off to the attending physician. A second opinion revealed the truth. No cancer. No disease. Just scar tissue from a past infection. The AI had been wrong. The fallout was immediate. Media outlets pounced. Machine error in rural hospital causes panic. Lawsuits loomed. Trust cracked. MedAI wasn't just a tool anymore, it was a liability. Elena sat in the review board meeting, her voice strained from defending what she still believed in. "It's not just about what the machine missed," she argued. "It's about how we're using it. No system is perfect. Not even us. But fear travels faster than logic." Meanwhile, something darker emerged, an ethical time bomb ticking quietly beneath the surface. That same week, cybersecurity flagged a breach attempt. A hacker group had tried to access MedAI's database through the partner network, hoping to exploit patient records. The attempt was unsuccessful, but it revealed a terrifying truth. Diagnostic data wasn't just valuable, it was vulnerable. Elena stared at the screen in Lucas's lab, where he pulled up the failed intrusion logs. "They didn't want to break it," he said grimly. "They wanted to own it." The question spread like wildfire. Who really controls AI in healthcare? Is it the developers, the hospitals, the government, or the algorithms themselves? Worse still, bias reared its head. MedAI, trained on global datasets, performed inconsistently across ethnic and gender lines. In one trial, it underdiagnosed heart disease in women by 12%. In another, it missed early-stage breast cancer more often in black patients than white ones. This wasn't just a bug, it was systemic. Elena felt the ground shift beneath her. And yet, in the chaos, came a moment of truth. A 7-year-old girl was rushed into the ER with abdominal pain. Tests were inconclusive. The attending physician, caught between pressure and protocol, deferred to MedAI. It flagged a rare intestinal torsion, something few general practitioners would have recognized in time. Emergency surgery saved her life. Later, Elena stood outside the OR, staring through the glass as the girl's chest rose steadily under anesthesia. She knew then, the problem wasn't that AI made mistakes. It was that humans expected it to be something it wasn't, flawless. MedAI wasn't a savior. It wasn't a villain. It was a mirror, reflecting both brilliance and blind spots. But in a system already cracked by pressure, even a mirror could cut deep. As she walked away from the OR, Elena realized something essential. The question was no longer, can we trust AI? It was, can we trust ourselves to use it wisely? Harmony or hype? The future of AI in diagnostics. 2 years later, Dr. Elena Rao stood in front of a lecture hall filled with new medical interns. Behind her, a slide displayed 2 images side by side, a lung X-ray and MedAI's analysis overlay. What had once sparked resistance now earned quiet nods of respect. Eliminate the human, she said, and the system fails. Eliminate the machine, and we miss too much. But together, we become something new. The room stayed silent, not out of doubt, but focus. In the time since the controversies, AI integration had evolved. Not replaced, refined. Hospitals now used AI under a human-in-the-loop model. MedAI didn't make decisions alone. It offered suggestions, flagged uncertainties, and tracked diagnostic trends over time. Every alert was reviewed by a trained clinician. Every diagnosis required human sign-off. The machine no longer spoke with authority, it whispered with insight. Privacy protocols had grown stricter. Decentralized data models ensured no single breach could expose a system. And the algorithms themselves had changed, now retrained regularly with more diverse datasets, more ethical oversight, and built-in bias detection layers. Still, Elena knew the tension hadn't disappeared. Some doctors still felt watched. Some patients still asked, was that diagnosis yours, or the computer's? But now, she welcomed the questions. One hospital in Spain had used AI to cut diagnostic error by 38%. A mobile clinic in Kenya had partnered with MedAI to triage skin conditions in remote areas, reaching patients who'd never seen a dermatologist before. These weren't headlines, they were lifelines. Lucas had moved on to a new project, an AI companion tool that explained its decisions in plain language. Doctors shouldn't have to decode code, he'd said. They need to trust what they can understand. Elena smiled when she thought of that. Back at St. Genesis, the culture had shifted. The machine wasn't feared anymore. It was respected. It had a seat at the table, but it never took the lead. That morning, a case came in, a woman in her 30s, no prior symptoms, persistent fatigue. Blood work looked normal. Scans clean. MedAI flagged a rare endocrine disorder, one Elena had only seen once in her residency. She paused, checked the markers, consulted her team. Then she ordered a specialist referral. 2 days later, the diagnosis was confirmed. Early enough to treat. When she met the patient to explain everything, the woman asked quietly, "So, it was a machine that found it?" Elena shook her head. "No, we did." As the sun dipped behind the hospital skyline, Elena walked past the same hallway where years ago she'd whispered, "There has to be a better way." Now, that way was taking shape. Not perfect, but possible. Not science fiction. Not hype. Just medicine, evolving. And somewhere in the background, a machine kept learning, silent, steady, ready.